Okay, hello, welcome everybody. Today we're joined with Beth from Clear Quality. So hi Beth.
Hi.
And we're going to be talking about training, but with a focus on apprentice programs really. So if you want to introduce yourself, Beth, and probably Clear Quality as well a little bit.
Cool. So, hi, I'm Beth. I'm from Clear Quality. I'm the training director. We are a ISO consultancy certification and apprenticeship training provider. So based in South Yorkshire, based in Rotherham, and we offer kind of national services in that sense. So yeah, come to have a chat with you guys about quality management and ISO 9001 and those kind of apprenticeships linked to it.
Send people to sleep, shall we?
Yeah, well, I'm riveting, thank you.
Yeah, I know. We think it's all good fun, but when we're at sort of dinner and people ask what you do, it's a bit about,
Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure I've got friends who still don't actually know what I
oh
do.
yeah. I still
Yeah.
don't know what we do, to be honest. Yeah, so cool. Yeah, so we're going to talk today, like I say, focusing on apprentice programs, around sort of obviously 9,014, 45, or every standard specifically, really. They all have a training element and awareness element.
Absolutely.
It's an important part of anything, really, in anything that
It
anyone
is. And
does.
you'll know that a lot of the time when it comes to things like quality management, because of what you guys do, that 80% of the time, the person that's put in charge of looking after the ISO system is a person who's worked at the business for a really long time, but has got no actual official support or training in how to manage that. And that's how Debbie and I kind of started on this journey, was that, originally we just used to offer the consultancy support. But then we were thinking, well, actually, how much better would it be if an organization could then put somebody in place who could manage that system for them going forward and with support with doing the internal audits and, keeping it on track, but without them needing us to come in consultancy wise every month to do the task. And that's where we started, really. And quality practitioner, I've got a real passion about that and what a difference it makes to quality managers. So, yeah, absolutely. It's about sharing the skill and upskilling those people who are put in these roles and you're in charge of 9001 now. And it's like, okay, sure. Training, maybe? Question mark?
There's a lot of people that, they get put into that role, like you say, and then they're just, there we go.
There you go.
Uh,
Have a lovely time. And it's like,
off you
okay,
go. Yeah.
yeah. So the whole point of QP is that we teach them, how to actually understand all the clauses about 9001 and then what they can proactively do to manage that on a, day by day basis in the actual workplace. So rather than it being something that you're scrabbling around 3 weeks before the audit to get everything ready, actually you've got somebody who's day by day managed that process. So you haven't got that stress or worry that your surveillance or your recertification audit's coming up, because you've got an embedded person who's fully trained in quality management who can look after that for you. It's in a safe pair of hands in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. So the quality practitioner, that's the apprentice program, is that right?
Yeah, so Quality Practitioner is a level 4 apprenticeship program, which is the same as kind of like a higher national certificate in this country in the education system. And it's really the most formal qualification you can do in being a quality manager. And it kind of takes you, it's intrinsically linked to 9001. There's no way you could go through that, and not have learnt the ISO clauses. It's built into the standard. And so the idea is that you can either join Quality Practitioner, and each month as part of the course, you'll build a new chunk of your system. And at the end of the course, you'll then be ready to come forward to you guys for your certification. Or it can be that, we've put the system in place for you, and now we're teaching someone else to be able to look after that. And so you've got that person who's that key ISO quality manager within your business. And it's been so productive. Wow, we've got upwards of 70 candidates now in the South Yorkshire area and nationally that have gone through as quality practitioners. It's been so popular.
So how long's the sort of program lasting?
That's 14 months in training. So the way we deliver it is kind of online training. So you'll attend subject matter lectures on different subjects each month. And then at the end, you'll then go into your endpoint assessment, which is assessed by a separate organisation who'll come in and see, yes, have you learned? Can you do what you need to be able to do to be a quality manager, be a quality practitioner?
Okay. So it's every month there's a training class?
Yeah. So every month they go and learn a new key skill. So it
Okay.
could be anything from month number 1, the key skill is kind of those ISO clauses. So it's those building blocks and foundations. Month number 2, they're going to learn all about lean metrics. So how to implement overall equipment effectiveness, how to look at throughput yield, how to look at workspace utilization. Month number 3, they'll look at things like supplier performance. Then it goes on to policy and procedure deployment, internal auditing, risk management, coaching and mentoring. So there's like a whole plethora of skills that sit in there, because what people don't really understand about quality management is that it's actually quite a really skilled job. You do everything from train people to write policies and procedures to, auditing against standards to mitigating and managing overall business risk. So there's a lot to encompass doing in that kind of, little role that everybody just kind of thinks is a tack on to somebody else's full-time job. And it's really not at all if you're going to do it well and you're going to do it properly.
That's really good. Yeah, because a lot of people, they'll go on like a lead auditor course,
Yeah.
but kind of teaches you the standard, which I suppose is month 1 that in yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, they miss things like KPIs and like throughput yields and all that kind of stuff that is important. It really is important. Yeah, so
that's what quality managers should be able to do for you. They should be able to drive efficiency within the business. They should be able to look at the structure that you've got and be able to go, how do we continuously improve that? How do we make that better? What can we do quicker, leaner, more efficiently? How can we reduce cost or time or money involved in that? And it's a really important element that people don't really understand about quality management. It's not just about walking around with a clipboard and a tick list and saying, yes, you have achieved that. Yes, you can do that. It's actually about how do we drive the business forward? And that's what Quality Practitioner is all about.
All right. Okay. So is it for new people or can experienced people sort of
Do you know
attend?
what? I've had learners from the ages of 16 to 63.
Wow.
And if you're in the younger end of the category, you need some time, I think, to learn the business, because if you're going to manage quality for someone, you need to understand how the business operates. So it's a slower growing process that you will go through. But then I've had group quality managers on it. And, they've learned a huge amount about metrics and risk management and all of those really key skills, doing failure mode effect analysis, doing measurement system analysis, and all those key little skills that wouldn't have got anywhere else. So, it really doesn't matter. It just matters that you want to learn how to continually improve your business. And that's what the whole core of the qualification's about, which, of course, links to the core of 9001. That is what 9001 is.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it's 100%. Yeah, the amount of companies I go to and I sort of mention FMEA and I guess get a blank look like, well, I've never heard of it. I'm like, it's quite some standards, not, it's quite integral, really.
It really is, and being able to have someone in the business with those skills is so important. We've had a lot of people come on the course that have started and quality's been a tack on to their full time, that they have. Then by the end of the course, because the business have seen the value in having a quality practitioner, they've actually then created a new role for that person, and they've gone into quality engineer or quality technician or quality coordinator or quality manager. They brought another member of staff through to fill the production or engineering or manufacturing role that person was in. So, it's kind of growing a culture is the whole idea of embedding quality rather than it being a tick box exercise, which is, of course, my least favourite thing in the world. You know what I mean? When you turn up 2 weeks before an audit and everyone's panicking because no one's done anything for a year and you're like, really the point in having a QMS? The point is that you maintain it constantly so you don't have this worry. Matter that the auditor is coming in 2 weeks. You're ready because you have a quality manager, you've got a practitioner that looks after your system internally because it is embedded and it matters to you and to the customer.
Yeah, I often wonder if we do spot checks on people, if we don't plan the audit, we don't tell anyone we're coming, we just rock up and ding dong, I'm here to do your audit. I just wonder what we'll walk into because panic before the audits and everyone's filling forms in, checking things over and things like that. I imagine it's quite a high percent, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. And one thing that me and Debbie are really passionate about at Clear Quality is making it not just a kite mark for somebody, making it a real quality management system that actually operates from the center of the business outwards. And it's just intrinsically part of what they do rather than something that is maintained over here when required.
Oh, we notice and we can see the difference in the businesses. And you can tell when it's really embedded in and they're using it as they should be and day to day. Yeah, I can see it transforming businesses, and you can always tell the difference. It really
does. Yeah, it just takes that little bit of time investment, which I know is the hard thing for a lot of companies because time is money, but I believe you put the investment in, train yourself up a good quality manager, put them in place to manage it, and you will see nothing but efficiency savings from that point onwards, especially if you invest in a little bit of lean and, lean metrics and lean training as part of that.
So how much time is it each month then? So it's 14 months. So how much?
It's an apprenticeship. The government standard is 24 hours a month. So we break down that into little bite-sized chunks. So the lecture they'll attend will be 4 to 6 hours, and that'll be on a fixed timetable that they'll have from day one. They'll then have things like self-guided learning, e-learning, assignments, etc., that are all broken down into bite-sized chunks. So the employer can, if you're having a busy week one week, you can make the hours up next week. You can do an hour a day. You could do half a day a week. But from the employer's point of view, with it being either funded by the government or funded by the levy, their investment is the time to allow that person to train and do it.
Yeah, okay.
If you do that right and you link it to what's live and what's happening in your general business as usual, actually what you can do is you can embed that time into their day-to-day activities. Make it valuable, use the time to create the quality management system, use each assignment as a chunk of that system being built.
So that they, as part of the 24 hours, obviously some of it's for the lecture, they can actually use that time for actually writing the manual, writing policies, creating the KPIs.
100%,
Okay, so they're kind of learning as they're doing.
Absolutely. So, month number 1, we start them on the enterprise risk register. So, that's a basic start of overall business view to start with your steeple analysis, with your, business and opportunity risks, with your KPIs, with your business objectives. So that's the first chunk is we start them working through that. Then their interested parties register. They'll then do a supplier monitoring system. They'll then create change management processes and forms to go through. They'll then create their internal auditing schedule and system. So, each month is that chunk of putting it together. And if you already have it, then it's not about putting it together. It's about taking what you've got, pulling it apart, analysing it, reviewing it based on what you've learned, and then creating something better on the other end. So, even if you have your system, it's about how can we improve your system for you? How do we make it leaner? How do we make it more embedded in the core of what you do?
Got you. Yeah. So if you've got nothing, you can implement something, and if you've got something already there, you can make it better.
Yeah,
there's always room for improvement, isn't there?
Well,
as we know,
And if you're going to have 9001, that's basically what you're signing up to. You're signing up to be your own critical friend, to be able to look at what you do and say, okay, so yeah, we have done it like that for a while, but if we did it like this, we would save this much time or this much resource. If we could automate that process, if we could input a cleaner, leaner way of doing things. Because as organisations build, you start with your core processes in the middle, don't you? And then lots of different stuff happens and you tack on all these other processes and procedures on the edge of that. And then 5 years in, you're like, actually, maybe we need to go back to the core and streamline what we've done because we've tacked processes and procedures onto processes and procedures.
No, you're 100%, because we do the same here. We put a system in at the start, and as we grow and develop, every now and then we do actually go back and just strip it. And that's actually what we done last year. We kind of refocused the procedures and the processes, remapped them, took things out, put bits in, and
It's like for us, we started with a paper-based system. So when we started in apprenticeships, everything was a Word document that we sent out via DocuSign. And then now we have a fully portfolio singing and dancing system that pumps everything out for us. So, our processes had to evolve with that. Otherwise, they wouldn't be right anymore. You'd be telling someone to email out a form when actually you just got to load them up into the system and it will automatically trigger the workflows as they are supposed to go. So, yeah.
Got you. So do you deliver the training yourself?
I do. I do have a whole team of trainers, but QP is my It's my love. I always have one
Is it?
cohort.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
just my last February 2023 cohort are all just finished their EPA at the moment. So, and then I will take probably another cohort around March time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I still love auditing. I shouldn't be
Yeah.
out so much, but I love it. So
I know,
yeah,
I
I'm
think
always
that
out.
sometimes as well, when you're a leader, it's about always understanding what the challenges your staff face as well. I think if I moved away from not having any learners, I would miss that being in the thick of it kind of part.
Yeah.
And I also love watching quality practitioners grow. Honestly, it's my
Yeah.
little
Same. Yeah. I love seeing companies grow and develop. And,
Yeah.
five years ago, there were sort of 5 people, and then now there's sort of 20, 25,
Yeah.
and flying all over the place. So
We have a
yeah,
little
it's good.
graduation ceremony every year for our learner. And I
Oh dear.
absolutely I'm like a little proud mum swanning around with all my little kids getting their certificates.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. So what's your sort of favourite element then of over the 14 months?
Whoa. Okay, so everyone's least favourite element is measurement system analysis. I can promise you that.
Okay.
No one loves that bit, but it is a really valuable thing to learn. My favourite bit on delivery is internal auditing, definitely.
Okay.
It's
Why is
my
that?
I've done it for years, and I think it's about being a critical friend, not about being an overlord, if that's a good way of
Okay.
saying it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that audits get this really negative persona put against them, that some overlord is coming in to tell you what you do really badly. And,
Tell you off,
everyone's
yeah.
fearful and everyone's like, oh my God. But actually, it should be a really positive process because it's about continuous improvement. And that's about how the auditor delivers the audit. That's up to us as auditors to put the people that we're auditing at ease and to help them to improve and to take ownership of what they're doing rather than putting everybody on the defensive immediately and, not really getting to, understand the process and understand the improvements that you can make. So I really like teaching because I think it's so important for the way we do it to be right.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's the way you approach it and treat people. You can't go in the godlike status and beating people
I've
with a
had that
stick.
before with auditors.
Oh yeah, we see it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating, and that negativity that can be put upon an audit process when actually, for us as an organisation, to internally audit your own processes and procedures is amazing because isn't it better to spot it yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Than to have it pointed out at an external audit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it should be really positive, but because of the way that people are taught to do it, it's not always the positive experience that it should be.
And I think it's the same from external auditors as well, internal and external. But yeah, it's just the wrong approach sometimes.
It is.
And you don't get the information out of people.
Is lead metrics and FMEA.
Yeah.
I love a lead metric.
I do kind of love metrics as well. I'm a bit of a data geek, and we've got stuff all over the place in here. And I love that because it tells you what it is. And obviously, a big part of ISO 9001 is making decisions on data, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you need it.
As I always say to them, if you can't see it, if you can't evidence it, it isn't real. Metrics are the best way most of the time in which you can do that. So yeah, and I love seeing them go away with all the metrics that they've learned and then do the assignment where they've got to work out what's the best metrics for their organisation and then implement those metrics. And I always think that's really interesting to see what they pick and what they come back with at the end.
Yeah, I bet it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we not so much in 9000, but in aerospace scheme, there's a lot of metrics. And the things that people present to us sometimes, it makes no sense. It's not measuring anything. You've just picked an easy thing. Oh, yeah, we could get that. But it tells them nothing. And often it's looking at the wrong data points and things like that. Yeah. So I can see how that'd be a very valuable lesson that month.
Absolutely. I love teaching. Lead metrics is my favourite to teach, definitely.
Yeah.
Auditing, I just love the embedding of the skill that you need as a human being to do that job. And then FMEA, who doesn't love an FMEA? For anyone who doesn't know what an FMEA is, when we talk about this, it's a failure mode effect analysis.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan.
Do you do process ones as well?
Yeah.
So you look at the process as well as the product.
Yeah, it depends on the learner, really. It depends whether they're in a process-led role or in a design-based role. Okay. We get both in quality, We've had guys on the course from people who build bikes to people who design zoos to people who run HR companies. You know, we get all sorts, because quality doesn't matter what industry you're in. Quality management is intrinsic to customer satisfaction.
Yeah, I was going to ask that actually, because obviously kind of heavily manufacturing, but you get quite a few different sectors, obviously, by the sound of it.
Yeah, and I have different tutors as well, depending on different groups. So, you know, I've got one tutor who's very specifically quality within engineering, manufacturing and production.
Okay.
But then you've got me, and I'm very specifically quality and kind of more the education and ISO side of things. And then you've got my other tutor in it, and he spent 25 years in the care industry. So he's very much CQC quality and that kind of stuff. So, you know, between us, we move people around depending on who the right human is for them to get the context of the qualification, because that's really important. Yeah.
So does the tutor stay with them throughout that journey of the 14? Yeah. So you don't swap around mid or anything?
No. Occasionally I have someone come in and do a guest lecture. In data protection, we have that because there's some really very, very technical modules in data protection. But for QP, no, the tutors will hold them for the whole time.
Got you. Okay. So you say MSA is kind of people's worst bit.
Of course.
How can you convince someone that it's a great thing then?
You get them to do it. I make them actually do it. Yeah. It's a mandatory and distinction element of the endpoint assessment. So if they want a distinction at the end, they need to carry out an MSA as part of their final project. So, you know, most people, because they want the distinction at the end, they are going to work with you to find a way to do a measurable and valuable MSA. It's not always easy if you're not in production and engineering.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, it could be tricky.
Well, you could do a lineary, or you could do a binary, or you could do an over time MSA. So it's about just kind of sitting with the learner and spending a little bit of time working out what the best way to do that is. And then the module gives them practice. But it is the one module that I am mean to all learners and make them all attend live, because I think it's one of those modules where you need to be with a tutor to ask questions, not watch it back on a video, because it is very technical in its concept. Yeah.
And I suppose you can then gauge if someone's getting it, and then if not, give them more
really
support.
Struggling, yeah. And you know, it's not an easy subject to do MSA, but it is. Everybody always walks out at the end going, well, that was difficult, but I have learned something, so.
It was a challenge, but we got there in the end. It's like some audits.
Yeah, exactly that.
Do they have to come on site for that, or is it all done sort of virtually?
It's all done virtually, but we do visit learners on site quite often. You know, I've been out and done actual MSA exercises with people when needed. You know, we've had certain areas and learners where, you know, they need that little bit of additional support. And at that point, yes, of course, we will go and spend some time with them on it. Because, you know, if somebody's at distinction level for everything else in their portfolio, but this is the one thing that they're a little bit stuck on, then yes, we're absolutely going to provide them with that support to get it right. I want to say get it right on the night, but then that just sounded weird.
That was a TV show, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, what was
I don't know which one either, but
this must have been an old one.
In my head. Yeah. No,
we're showing it. I was going to say, we're showing our age now. It'll be all right on the night. Yeah, what was that? That's going to bug me now. It'll come to me later.
I feel like it was Matthew Kelly, you know.
I think you might be right, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. You might be right. Yeah.
I'm going to Google it when we're finished.
That's it. Yeah. Make sure you message me.
Yeah.
Okay. It sounds really interesting, actually. And you mentioned about supply chain as well. I think that's something a lot of people don't do right. Obviously, it's important for some companies, not for others. But some of the ones I go to, which they just buy everything.
Yeah.
You know, everything's bought in and they're just assemblers, things like that. I don't think they do that well enough in some cases.
Absolutely. And we do, the assignment we do for that one's all about doing like a balanced scorecard. Yeah. So all about actually testing your supply chain and making sure that it's meeting its SLAs and its contractual agreements with you. Because I do think people just get trapped in that's the best price. And while that's the best price is lovely, at the end of the day, is that the best service you can offer your customer at the other end? Because if it's consistently late, if it's consistently damaged, if it's consistently missing stuff, then you are having to go back, and that is then affecting your customer relationships, and they will eventually go somewhere else.
Yeah, 100%. And it has a knock-on impact onto your own on-time delivery and performance. And
absolutely, yeah.
Because like you say, a lot of people will maybe look at on-time delivery. Mm-hmm. They'll look at quality and they say, that's okay. But then they're always missing the paperwork. They're always chasing things. They don't get communication.
Yeah.
It's, you know, the price might be cheap and they put up with it. It's like, yeah, but it's not the best thing always.
It's not, no. And I think your customer would rather probably that you put your price up a little bit to get a more consistent supplier than they would sit there constantly having everything be delayed, everything be late, everything be not as their contract is agreed to be. So, yeah.
And I've seen some companies that have great on-time delivery themselves, 98, 99%, and their suppliers are sort of 40%. And they're like, so they're saying, right, well, to combat their bad performance, we just order it a lot earlier. We would put a month earlier.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, but that's your cash flow.
Yeah.
And
your
I know, but
workspace utilization, because you're using a massive chunk of your space to store stuff that you don't actually know that you've sold yet.
Yeah. And
Why are we buying
just in
stuff
case
we don't know that we're selling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to allow for that really late deliveries and things like that. Like, it's crazy.
It is crazy. And that supply chain is the reason people get forced into that. I don't know if you've ever read a book called 2 Second Lean.
No, I don't think I have actually.
Okay, so if you check it out online, it's by a guy called Paul Akers. And oh my God, he is so clever. And what he did with his organization using lean, using workspace utilization, using overall equipment effectiveness is really interesting.
Okay. What's it called? Two second
lean.
Okay, yeah. I've read a lot of lean books, but I haven't heard of that one.
Well, he's like super American and everything.
Yeah.
I just, he applies it to home as well as he applies it to work. So he applies it to all those chores that his wife sets him to do, like mowing the lawn or cleaning the car or all of those. How can he make each activity that he does in his day 2 seconds quicker?
Sure.
And it's so interesting to think. And then you think and you sit and you look at your own business and you're like, how do I make that task 2 seconds faster? And then you think about how many tasks do I do in a day?
And
how many tasks do my staff do in a day? So how many 2 seconds could I save throughout a day? And then you start thinking, okay, actually, that could really add up time-wise. Yeah. So,
okay, yeah, got you. Yeah, it's kind of the same principle. Obviously, I know what lean is, but where sportsmen make the tiny incremental improvements, and Toto Wolff in Mercedes Formula One, he famously said, just make tiny increments in every area.
Tiny increments,
compound it and we'll win. And obviously they did. They were very successful. So yeah. Okay, I'll look that one.
You should. And then you'll go round and when you get home, you'll be like that. So how do I do this task 2 seconds quicker?
Yeah. Is there a way of getting out of the chores? Is there a book on how to get out of the chores?
No.
Okay.
Just make it quicker. Okay. But did you notice there how you managed to come off this call with homework?
I usually do, to be honest.
It's a talent of mine. No one ever gets out without any homework. It's
homework. Yeah, I'll be straight on that afterwards. Buying that. Yeah.
It does an audiobook of it. That's how I've read it, because I've put it on in the car and stuff. It's just a really interesting read, and it really makes you think about, okay, so how do I do stuff and how can I apply that in my workplace and in my home life?
Okay. So do you give lots of tips like that during the practitioner course? Books, go read this.
They all have to read the audio or listen to the audiobook.
Okay.
I've got it embedded.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paul.
I was going to say, you're on commission.
No, technically not, but I would love to be.
Yeah. Oh, great. No, I'll look that up. I think that's where a lot of value comes from going on these courses and things like that, is you get those little tidbits from people that have got the experience and the knowledge that, can totally transform you. And I think that's where the beauty can be from audits as well. It's you're getting someone in that's experienced and knowledgeable, and they're trying to share that knowledge with you. I find we've got our internal audit next week, actually. So.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. 2 people beating me up. So, but.
I hope not. I hope they're going to treat you like a lovely friend and they're just going to help you make it better.
Yeah, but like I say, we get value from it. It is important, and some people wonder if we actually do it, and we do. We actually get external people in. There's no point us doing it ourselves because, we're probably a bit blind to it and things like that.
Yeah, it's a level of bias, isn't it? You can't help but be biased against something that you create and you love and you do all day, every day. So the best thing you can do with internal audits is get an external party that comes in, not to tell you everything's terrible, but to highlight where you can improve and what an auditor might flag up as a minor or major non-conformance on the day.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So obviously the practitioner course apprenticeship program. So you said there's funding for that? Yes. Government funding and levy? How's that work?
Yeah, so the apprenticeship levy is a tax that all companies who have over a £3.5 million wage bill will naturally pay. It will then sit in what's called their digital apprenticeship service account, their DAS account, as we call it. And any of those companies can just use that money to pay for the apprenticeship standard. If your wage bill is less than that and you're what we call an SME or a non-levy organisation, then the government will pay 95% of the overall cost. And then you will be required to put a 5% contribution, which for Quality Practitioner, I think is £300.
Wow. That's nothing, is
you
it?
You can pay that over 14 months. You pay
Really?
a chunk every month. You don't have to pay the £300 even up front. You can pay £25 a month for 14 months for it. The investment from the employer is always that time. Yeah.
So I could basically put, because I guess we could put our auditors on it, couldn't I,
absolutely.
really?
Yeah.
So I could put someone on it and pay £300, and the rest of it's all funded.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just go provide them a bit of time, obviously, to do the
time. Yeah, absolutely. That's the commitment that the employer makes to the course, is giving them the time to grow and implement and learn the skills they need to learn.
Wow. That's incredible, really.
I mean, you don't get... amazing. I'm a product of them. I never went to university. I didn't do all of that jazz. I came out of school at 16, got my first full-time waitressing job, worked my way up to restaurant manager, and then randomly in my 20s decided that I never wanted to serve anyone food ever again. So somehow ended up here 20 years later than that.
I think we all fall into this kind of career, don't we? The quality kind of career.
Yeah.
You just kind of getting this. Yeah.
Where did I get here from? But I love teaching, and I've seen hundreds of apprentices over the years make something amazing of themselves. And, often they are the people that, people thought would never really go anywhere or do anything, back in the day when it was everyone should go to uni. But, I've seen amazing girls go into the workplace at 16 years old as business admin level 2 apprentices and are now, part of the senior leadership team at 30, you know what I mean? And doing amazing for themselves. It's such a positive thing to do if it's the right route for you. It was for me. So I have too many apprenticeships under my belt to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm going to show my age way too much.
So you got quite a few, have you?
Yeah, over the years. Yeah, I've done a few. Yeah.
Well, if it's all 95% funded, it's mad not to, really, isn't it?
Especially when you're with the bigger companies and it's basically 100% funded because they have to pay the tax anyway. The tax is not optional. So if you don't spend what's in your levy account, you're just giving that money back to the government. So, one of the other things we try and do a lot, and we work with the South Yorkshire Apprenticeship Hub on, is if you're a big company and you can't use your levy, if you can't use that money, then share it with smaller companies that can. You're legally allowed to share it. So share that with smaller SMEs, your local businesses around you, and let them grow their workforces.
How do they do that then? How's that work?
It's called matching service. Okay. So you can let the South Yorkshire Apprenticeship Hub know that you've got, this much in funding and you're not able to use it. And then they can find apprentices for smaller SME companies. And then you just transfer over those levy funds. So rather than going back to the government, because 24 months after they hit your account, if you've not used it, they're gone.
You lose it.
Yeah, you lose it.
Okay. So it could help the larger organisations with their ESG.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we really promote that. We've been with the South Yorkshire Apprenticeship Hub, we've been working with Aviva, we've been working with Google. We've got loads of matches for different organisations in Sheffield and Barnsley and Rotherham. And it really helps the smaller companies. I know the contribution isn't massive, but for some smaller companies, it is the difference between, yes, I can afford to do this, and no, I can't afford to do this.
Yeah.
So if we can get them a levy match fund, then, it is simply time that they have to give us. And time is the one thing that they could resource.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's kind of a no-brainer, isn't it, really?
I think so, definitely. But,
So you're getting a lot of people... So you're getting a lot of people sort of take up the programme, are you?
Yeah. So I think at the moment, I'll tell you exactly off the top of my head, but we have 260 learners across our 8 apprenticeship programmes, and we've had over 100 complete now in full. We've only been a training provider for 3 years. So, with the programmes being between 14 and 20 months, it takes a while to see that coming through at the other end. But yeah, we are starting to see the, real results of what we've been doing.
Yes, fantastic. Okay. So how can someone sort of get on the program then? What's the best method for them?
Well,
So if I'm a client or if I've got
mhm.
clients that want to sort of join and say, yeah, I could put someone on the quality practitioner course, how do they go about that?
So they can just give me a shout at my Clear Quality. The website is clearquality.co.uk, or you can give us a call on 01709 918 501, or you can email us at training@clearquality.co.uk, and we can support you to find match funds. We can support you to, do skill scans and look at what the right skills for your business are. We're not going to drive you down a route that you don't need to go on. For us, it's all about valuable learning. It needs to be valuable to the employer. And most importantly, the learner needs to want to be there.
Yeah, you can't drag someone along to it.
And we get that. We do get that. Of course we do. But for us, it's so important that everybody is invested in what we're doing. And the same as if you're going to put 9,001 in your business, be invested in putting it in your business. Don't think of it as a little stamp that's going to go on a certificate that's going to get you a tender. You need to think about it as this is a new culture and a new ethos for our business. And Quality Practitioner is the way to train yourself someone to support that for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. Sounds good. Okay. So is there a test at the end? Because I
Yeah.
hate tests. Everyone hates
No, it's
tests,
not an
but
exam, though. It's not an exam on Quality
okay.
Practitioner. You run an improvement project. So you get 20 weeks, you get to pick your scope, and you have to take some metrics within your organisation, and you have to show improvement through running a project.
Right.
You'll
Okay. So there's no
also
exam, so I don't have to go into an exam environment or anything.
No,
Okay,
no,
because
no,
I
no.
hate exams.
It's all about you showcasing competency. That's what apprenticeships are. They're vocational. They're about you showcasing your ability to do that job.
Right. So they basically just do the project over
Yeah,
the 14 months
yeah.
and then present, this is what I've learned and this is what I've
Yeah, so
created.
each month you'll do an assignment that creates what's called your portfolio of evidence. That is you showcasing your competency as a quality practitioner. Once you go into your endpoint assessment, you'll have a 60-minute discussion over that. You'll then agree your project scope that you're going to run, and you've got 20 weeks then to run your project, deliver your project, write a report on your project, and present that back to your endpoint assessor. So it comes in two parts, and each part of that endpoint assessment is worth 50%.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds really good. I'll sign up myself.
You're very welcome.
If I had the time, I honestly would, because it's,
Next cohort's in on the 19th. You've got 6 days still.
yeah, 6 days. I better get in quick. Yeah. If I had the time, it sounds fantastic.
No, it really is. And, it's about thinking about how can I continually improve what I do. And if that's what your core as an organisation is, then you should have somebody in the quality practitioner role. You should be looking at how do I develop that area.
So have you actually seen it transform businesses
Oh, yeah.
at all? Yeah.
I've
Obviously, you
seen
see
some
people develop.
absolutely
You've seen,
incredible EPA projects happen that have saved companies millions of pounds. And that's not me, shouting about, I can't say company names, of
yeah, of
course,
course.
but I have seen some incredible projects. One of my learners this year, he did possibly one of the best projects I've ever seen, and said the EPA had ever seen as well. And, just so proud to watch him go from, having very little experience in quality to delivering one of the best EPA projects that have ever gone through. And, he had every metric under the sun in there, and he did continuous improvement on all of them. And it was quite special to see.
And then the company's obviously benefited
Of
and
course.
cost
Yeah.
savings or
Yeah.
improvements.
Yeah. Well, he's brought in what was a service that they outsourced. So they outsourced it to a third-party supplier. He's now brought that in-house using metrics and costings, etc., to do that. And the results are that they now save millions in time and money by not having to use an external supplier to create that particular part for them.
Wow. Was that, obviously the company had to support them in that decision, or, well, they had to present that.
Yeah. But that's what the project's about, isn't it? It's about justification. You have to go away and research and justify and do all of the metrics and, design what's going to happen next, and do your failure mode effect analysis and run your measurement system analysis to justify and prove that the change you want to make is going to be valuable for the business.
Wow. Yeah. So they obviously supported it and went with
Yeah,
it, and they put a lot
yeah,
of faith in that.
yeah, and a lot of companies do, because it's the one moment they've got to give the learner the time to do the project. So why not make the project
Yeah.
super valuable? You know what I mean? A simulated project is never what we want. We want real, we want live, we want, valuable to everybody projects, and they're the best ones we see come out the other end.
Yeah. Again, I guess it's not ones that pay lip service to it, isn't it?
Yeah, precisely. It's about really getting stuck in and going, what can I improve?
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. This has been a real eye-opener for me, and I'm definitely going to be mentioning it to some people.
Please
I
do.
think it'd
Please
be
do.
valuable. Yeah, I know
Very
I've
available
mentioned it to a
for
few, and I don't know whether anything happened to them, but I know I've put a few your way that it sounded interesting to people. But yeah, hopefully this helps as well.
fab.
Definitely opened my eyes up.
I think people think of apprenticeships as being for 16-year-olds,
Mm.
and they're just not. You're actually way more valuable for somebody who's been in their career for a while and is looking to take that next step and progress and do, take a step up from where they are. And that's really what the level 4 apprenticeships are for, because you've got to have a certain level of experience to be able to go on that level in the first place.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, brilliant. Fantastic. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No,
before
I'm
we
good.
leave?
No, all
all
good.
good.
Been a pleasure.
I'll obviously put all the things in the show notes, links to your website, and put your phone number and LinkedIn and things like that. So, yeah, it's been great. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Thanks a lot, Beth.